Welcome to another session of how to become a financial analyst. Basically, this session is in continuation of our previous session, which will be a pivot table part 1. So over there, we in the previous session we have done sorting, filter, summarize, and the analysis of that thing. So I will continue from there. So let's do some internal calculations, and this was the data on which we build the pivot table, and this was our pivot table. So let's say after making this pivot table, my boss wants me to calculate a 2% rebate for the customer. So what I will do, if you don't know how to do a calculation within the pivot table, so what you will do, you will end up in doing some manual calculation, which maybe you will do something like this and say into 0.02, for example. If you want to do a 2%, and then you can copy on to the different cells. But the problem with this is that if I take my details that I don't want SKUs and I just need a total, and here you can see here we have put the formula to calculate a rebate, and it's no more the Y because the pivot table has moved somewhere. So what we will do is we can go back into a pivot table, and let's say I want to bring in SKUs over here so that we can put a formula. So this was the table. So now what my boss wants me to calculate a rebate on the total. So before that, what I will do, I will go into the design and I say I want some grand total on columns as well as on the bottoms. So, and over here I don't need SKU, and so I will put it over here. So now there's an only bottom here. So what normally people do, if they don't know how to calculate something within the pivot table, you can do something like this and say into 0.02 if your boss wants to do that, and then you can copy this data. But the problem is that now if I want to bring my SKU, this system will have a problem, and you can, and everything is undone because that calculation was not a part of a pivot table. So what I will do to make it a part of a pivot table, I will put my cursor over here and go into analysis, and over here field item assist, and then the calculate team, and the name of my field is rebate, and what is rebate for me is equals to amount into 0.02%. and the moment I do and say okay, now you can see that rebate become the part of the table. Yeah, and even now if I say is that bring in let's say bring in the sales rep over with the things, but even if I increase or decrease the data, you can see that my rebate is always a part of this thing. So this is one way of doing the calculations, that you can add as many calculations. Now what is the problem with me? The problem is that if this is a if I take it as a gross sales, if this is for me is a gross sales and I deduct the rebate, then I have to calculate the net sales. So what I will do to calculate the next net sales, I will go here, and here I say is NR. NR stands for net revenue, is equals to amount minus rebate, and say okay. And here now you have calculated the two different fields here. The good thing about it is if people in your company don't know how to do all those things, they may never understand these things. Why? Because if you go into a raw data, which is the base, so there's only one amount is over here. There's no rebate, there's no net revenue. But because you have calculated something within the pivot table, if you put your cursor, there's no such formula, anything up here. It's just normal numbers. So this is how you can calculate these things. Okay. Now let's move to another example, which is also very interesting. Let's say this is my simple data. Let me just convert them into my pivot table. So now my boss comes to me, and I'm working for, let's say, Samsung's electronics, and he gave me these 12 months of data, 2018 and 19. As you can see, he gave me the sales for my company for 24 months, and there's another competitor, my competitor, which is called LG, and he also gave me the 12 months of LG, same period, everything. And he wants me to make a pivot table something like this. He needs year first, then he needs months, and then he says show me our company numbers, show me the LG numbers, do the variance and calculate the percentage over here. And then he says maybe within a day or two I will give you the another competitor whose name is LG. So I put my LG over here, but I'm not doing anything to it, and later on we can add the LG into our pivot table. So let's start the pivot table onto the first one. So over here I will go and say insert the pivot table. Okay, and as you can see that another sheet has been opened. So I will say yes, I want company and I want months. And first of all I will go into my pivot tables and I will say analysis, options, display, classic over here, and then I can remove this, and years has been grouped, so I will say ungrouped. And as you can see that it is this is the company name, 12 months, and then my competitors, first LG and then Samsung is over here. Okay, and what is the requirement of my boss? He wants both of them onto over here. So what I will do, I will hold my company and I will bring it over here. And now if I go on the top, this is as what my boss wants me. So this is the LG and this is the over here, because we didn't bring the amount, so there is no calculation over here. And as soon as I click the amount, because the amount is the numbers, so it will come over here, and now I can see everything. And I will go here and say value field accounting. I don't want dollar sign, I don't need decimals. Okay and okay. And right now the third column is not the grand total, because it don't make sense to add all those things. So I will go over into my designs and say total. I don't want any total right now over here. Okay, so now I've calculated two things, which is one is my LG and other is Samsung as per the instruction of my boss. Now I want a variance between both of them. So if I go here, as per the previous technique which we have learned, I can go into here and say here and calculate a field. But the problem is, because if you see, the amount was coming into one row. So amount or revenue is a one field regardless of LG or Samsung, whatever it is. So it's over here, it's no more two field. Apparently it's because we have put something in a column, that's why these two columns are coming, but over there it's one column. And that's why when I put my cursor over here, I cannot see anything to it. I can do a calculation because revenue is revenue over here. So what I will do, I can sometimes, I don't know what happens, but if I put my cursor over here on the heading and I go over here, then there is a calculated items also. So which was previously is not was a gray area. I cannot click into there. So now if I go and I say companies, so showing me two companies. If I go into months, all the months are here. And if I go into revenue, I need the companies here, so both are here. So what is the formula for me? The formula for me is variance 1. And what is that? I want my company to be deducted from the LG, and say okay. And here I can see the variance, and I want to put a percentage. So what I can do for putting a percentage, I can go over here and I say percentage. And what is percentage for me? Percentage for me is equals to, sorry, not from here but from over here, percentage. And what is percentage for me? For me the percentage is the variance to be divided by my number. Divided by this number, and say okay. And later on I can convert it into a decimal thing, whatever it is. So now it says that we have done 4,600. My competitor has done 6,000. So my I'm 1,500 less than my competitor, which is 34% less than my competitors. And now my boss has given me after 2 days the other competitor, which is, he's told me previously that I will give you other data. Now because I've converted it on a table, and the moment I take my data from here and say cut and paste it here, the third company will become a part of a table. Now because it become a part of a table, and if I go into my pivot table and I say it says refresh, as you can see that GE automatically added over here. And now if you have to calculate the second variance, which is Samsung minus GE, you can do that. And if you want to calculate a variance between the GE and Samsung's, I think now you can do this. So this is what you have learned today, which is a calculation within the pivot table. And very few people in my career, I see 15 to 20% people in the company with 5-10 years of experience sometimes know how to do these calculations over there. And let me just do one more thing over here. Let's say my boss says that put another calculation, that additional rebate for somebody who has done the sales more than 300,000. So he has given me option above 300. So there's only one. So let's take above 200. So anybody who's done sales above 200 will get additional 0.5%. So what I will do, I will go over here and say calculate the field, and they say let's say additional. And what is additional for me? Now I will say is equals to, if we will cover into our next sessions, is equals to, if bracket start amount is greater than or equal to 250, then do what? Amount into 0.01, another 1%. Otherwise do what? Just display me 0. Don't do anything, and say enter, say okay. And now you can easily see that we have put the if formula within the pivot table, and now all those amounts which are greater than 250 got an additional 1%. And now what I can so all these amounts which get above 250 got additional 1%. Now what I can expect from you, that let's change the formula, which is the NR, because now NR has to be deducted with the other numbers also. So we'll go over here, over here, put the cursor over here to make it activated. Oh, come on. Sometimes do things like this. Okay, so what is NR for me? NR is this, and minus additional, and say okay. And now it has changed. And now what I will do, I will go here and I will say move or I can do what, I can hold this NR from here and bring it at the end. So now it makes sense. There's a gross sales, 2% rebate for everybody, additional 1% who has done more than 250,000, and then there's my Z net revenue, and this is how we have done the calculation. So what we have learned today in a pivot table, that pivot table is one of the most powerful tool, and with the help of a pivot table we can do all these things together. And then we learn how to put the different formula using two different options available there, and we have created a formula, two different types of pivot table where we can do our calculations and put the formulas within the pivot table. And I hope that you have learned something new from today's two sessions of a pivot table. In my next class, I will tell you another great technique of doing our reconciliations with the pivot table. With the 2000, 10,000, 5,000 rows data, you can just reconcile them in few minutes. So stay tuned and keep watching a third session of pivot tables. And if you want me to cover any specific scenario over here, then please feel free to leave the comments below and I will get back to you. Please subscribe and like my channel, and also promote me to other people so that they also get the benefit from these hands-on practical trainings. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.